All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're diving into a concept that genuinely has the power to completely rewire how you view human conflict. We're going to unpack Carl Jung's revolutionary concept of the shadow, and more specifically, the psychological architecture of projection. And hey, this isn't just some abstract high-level theory. We're talking about the actual nuts and bolts of your everyday interactions and those chronic frustrations we all deal with.
So right off the bat, let's do a quick mental exercise. I want you to picture the specific person who infuriates you the most right now. Maybe it's a coworker who's just constantly bragging, a family member who seems incredibly lazy, or maybe someone in your friend group who is always playing the victim. You know exactly who I'm talking about, the one who makes your eye twitch just thinking about them. Get their face clearly in your mind because throughout this explainer, we're actually going to use them to unlock a deeply hidden mystery about your own mind.
Now here is the massive aha realization at the core of Jung's work. It's called projection. And what it means is that the external world, and specifically those people who irritate you the absolute most, acts as a giant, unavoidable mirror for your own unintegrated psychological baggage. Seriously, the people who bother you are actually just broadcasting your own internal issues directly back at you.
Okay, let's move to section 1, the internal rejection loop. We'll look at the actual mechanics of the shadow.
To really grasp why we do this, we have to look closely at this internal rejection loop. It's a perfect illustration of how a repressed trait or a deep insecurity creates immense internal tension. Because that tension feels awful, it eventually has to be expelled outward as outrage at other people. But, it begs the question, where does that repressed trait even come from in the first place?
Well, it comes from what psychologists call the act of splitting. See, as we grow up, we adopt certain values just to survive and thrive in our families and our culture. If we decide early on that traits like weakness or laziness or greed are dangerous or entirely unacceptable, we actively repress them. But here's the catch. They don't just magically disappear. We push those traits way down into our subconscious, into a place Carl Jung called the shadow, basically hoping they stay hidden down there forever.
But here's where things get really messy. When you're out in the world and you encounter someone who openly displays a trait that you have spent years violently suppressing, your psyche actually panics. Seeing that exact trait just out there in the wild threatens the very fragile barrier keeping your own repressed version locked away. It's an active threat of recognition.
So, to protect you from this terrifying recognition, your ego frantically converts that internal threat into external hostility. This is emotional deflection in action. That intense, burning irritation you feel toward that annoying person, that is actually your ego loudly declaring to everyone, "See, I am absolutely nothing like that person. I despise that behavior." It's literally a defensive smokescreen to keep you from recognizing your own capabilities.
All right, section 2, your judgment scorecard, or what we call the metric trap. Think about this concept for a second. If we judge ourselves by how much money we make, we will judge others by how much money they make. This right here is the metric trap. Our harsh judgments of others are rarely ever about the other person. Instead, your judgment is a public broadcast of your own internal scorecard. The exact metric you use to evaluate yourself is the exact same one you're going to weaponize against the world.
And honestly, these indicators are pretty foolproof. If you find yourself hypercritical of someone else's physical appearance, it reveals a harsh internal metric. Your own self-worth is dangerously tethered to how you look. Or, if you despise someone for being unproductive or lazy, it shows you're trapped in a hyper-rigid loop where your personal value is strictly tied to your output. Your ruthless external judgments are directly tied to the metrics you use to punish yourself behind closed doors.
Which leads us to a really profound psychological reality known as the empathy deficit. You fundamentally cannot grant a grace to another human being that you do not grant yourself. It's just not possible. If you are ruthless with your own failures, if you literally never give yourself a break, you will instinctively be ruthless when other people slip up. Your lack of external empathy is just a mere reflection of your lack of internal grace.
Moving right along to section 3, denied versus overcome. Let's look at the two distinct flavors of projection.
So our irritations usually fall into one of two very distinct categories. When someone triggers you, it's generally for one of two reasons. The first is the denied trait. They're doing something you secretly wish you could do, but your strict moral code prevents you. The second is the overcome trait. They're displaying a weakness or fragility that you actually used to have, but you fought incredibly hard to overcome.
In the real world, this translation is incredibly direct. Say it's a denied trait.
Your outrage might sound something like, "How dare they speak up so aggressively?" But the hidden rationale there is a desire, "Man, I wish I could stand up for myself like that." Now, if it's an overcome trait, you might think, "Why can't they just get their life together?" And the hidden rationale is pure fear. Their weakness reminds you of how fragile your own progress really is. Your external outrage is basically a readable map to your hidden desires and hidden fears.
Okay, Section 4, using triggers as data. This is the operational pivot where we make this actionable.
If you accept the premise of projection, and it's a game changer if you do, you have the power to entirely change your relationship with conflict. The next time someone drives you completely crazy, you've got to stop trying to fix them or just wallowing in the frustration. Chronic irritation is no longer an external problem to solve. It is highly valuable objective biometric data about your own psyche, just waiting to be collected and analyzed.
So the next time you feel triggered, try running this rapid diagnostic protocol. Step 1. Isolate the charge. Strip away the story and find the precise one-word trait you're judging, like arrogance or neediness. Step 2. Locate the mirror. Ask yourself honestly, where in my own life do I exhibit this trait, or where am I desperately overcompensating to ensure I never exhibit it? And step 3. Integrate the shadow. Acknowledge that this intense emotional charge only exists because of your own unresolved relationship with that specific trait.
And the ultimate payoff of doing this shadow work, it's profound. When you locate that trait within yourself and you make peace with that aspect of your own humanity, the magic happens. The external person who used to drive you crazy, they won't change at all. They will continue to act the exact same way. But because your internal rejection loop has been neutralized, they will completely lose their power to trigger you. You stop projecting and you finally start seeing clearly.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder. Remember that face I asked you to picture at the very beginning of this explainer? The next time they truly get under your skin, or the next time you feel a massive surge of moral outrage at anyone, just pause, take a breath, look in the mirror, and ask yourself, what is your shadow trying to tell you?